back with another review, and today talking about and reviewing the 1991 comedy Suburban Commando. And this is a fun one. And what's interesting about this film for me, well, for one, I didn't see it 2 years later, but I was first exposed to it because when I had the VHS tape for Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, I remember the trailer for this being on there. And, rewatching that, because I had that tape for the longest time. And just that line of, you're going to pound my face. What are you, nuts? This is the 90s. We're going to sue you. That line just stuck with me. And I still crack up with that line. But, like I said, this is a fun one. When it comes to Hulk Hogan, I haven't seen a whole lot of the stuff. I haven't seen No Holds Barred, and a couple of other films he's done. And, I get it's not perfect. It wouldn't be like in my top 100 comedies list. But it's one of these films where you can just sort of lay back and, have fun with the movie. The plot, you have Hulk Hogan in the film, who's this, galactic warrior. And, yeah, I'm sort of reading off the back here. And he's sent to Earth, temporarily. And he ends up renting an apartment from this mild-mannered couple, played by Christopher Lloyd and Shelley Duvall. And their two children. And Shep's efforts to adapt to suburban life are hilariously unsuccessful. And then you have the neighbors, having problems with the neighbors. But when his evil nemesis from across the universe tracks him to his backyard, Shep needs all the help from the Earthlings he can get, even from his bumbling landlord, played by Christopher Lloyd, to stop his nemesis. And that's pretty much the plot of the film. Simple, but, again, just fun. And, I've always talk about the cast first. Hulk Hogan, to me, he's fine in the film. He's having fun with this role, and you can tell that he's having fun. And I think, from what I've read, that he early, of course, after this film came out, he was always approached to doing a sequel, but it just never happened. But, I like Hulk Hogan in the movie. And, so yeah, Hulk Hogan to me was good. Christopher Lloyd as the landlord, he was good. Definitely a different, it's not, like you think about Back to the Future, it's not that type of character. He's more mild-mannered. He's more reserved. And, in the beginning of the film, trying to get a raise and it doesn't work out. And, again, more of a straight guy, but a likable character. I thought Christopher Lloyd did a good job in the film. Shelley Duvall, I thought she was good in the film, from The Shining and other films. So I thought they were a good couple. They played a good couple in the film. I like their characters. They're likable characters. And again, Hulk Hogan does a good job, and you can tell he's having fun. And they also have, I think, Larry Miller's in the film, who you've seen before. He was good in the film. Now, directed by Burt Kennedy. And I don't know why I didn't have this pulled up, but let's see here. Again, I should have had this ready by now, but... And directed by Burt Kennedy, who unfortunately has passed away. Passed away back in 2001. But he's more notable for directing films such as The War Wagon with John Wayne, The Trouble with Spies, The Train Robbers, directed an episode of Magna P.I. He directed a lot of stuff in the 60s, so you can look at his IMDb. And this was the last film he directed, apparently. He directed something called Comanche the year before he passed. But, this is really the last film he directed. Burt Kennedy. Yeah, Suburban Commando. This is the last film he directed. and he directed quite a few episodes of Simon and Simon. So he's worked on some TV, but yes, unfortunately he's passed away. And written by Frank Capello. This guy, he also wrote films such as, let's see here, Constantine? Really? So apparently he had a hand in the screenplay. The guy who wrote this movie had a hand in the screenplay for Constantine, which is interesting. But he also wrote No Way Back with Russell Crowe, which is a film from back in the 90s, which I've never heard of. And he's directed a few movies, which I've never heard of. But I wanted to mention the writer. And again, I thought the plot was fine. I mean, it was just... Yeah, you can call it a silly plot, but, it's a fun plot, so... I'm not going to bag too much on that. And as far as the other cast, I mean, going back to that for a second, you have Jack Elam in the film, who plays this sort of like a veteran, like a neighbor of Christopher Lloyd. And this guy you've seen before. I mean, Once Upon a Time in the West and The Cannonball Run. Recognizable character actor. Unfortunately, he's passed on, but he's in the film. You also have The Undertaker, Mark Calloway. The Undertaker is one of the bounty hunters. So yeah, this is before, and I guess, from what I understand, like at this point, and I think it's in the trivia somewhere. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Because The Undertaker has a character, he plays a bounty hunter in the film. It says right here in the trivia, Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, accepted a role in this movie at the suggestion of Vince McMahon. The Undertaker had not debuted in the WWF during this time of the making of this movie, but Vince had high hopes for him. Vince planned to do with Hogan and Undertaker what he did for Hogan and Zeus by bringing him into the WWF, the villain of the film No Holds Barred, which starred Hogan. However, that angle didn't do too well because Zeus was trained to become a wrestler after No Holds Barred, and the angle quickly died away. Vince hoped that if this movie was a hit, then hopefully The Undertaker would become known well enough to attract audiences who wanted to see Hogan take on another villain in the WWF. Only this time the villain was a wrestler able to put on decent matches with Hogan. No mention of this movie was mentioned after the Hogan debuted, just before the film was released in theaters. So, yeah, it's really interesting to see that The Undertaker back in the day, and those two bounty hunters. I know the other one's played by Tony Longo, I believe that's his name. And Tony Longo, you've seen before. He was in, I think he was in Rapid Fire, but he was also in other films like 16 Candles and Fletch and Angels in the Outfield. I believe he was in a Racer too. Yeah, Racer. He's been in a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, I think he passed away. But Tony Longo and The Undertaker, I thought they were good as the bounty hunters. I mean, throughout the film, they have no dialogue, but when it comes to this fight scene between The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan in the film, of course, The Undertaker's like, you're a dead man, Ramsey, and it's like a baby voice, like a child's voice, which is funny. I mean, it's funny. It's goofy, but it's fun. So, I thought they were fine in the film as the bounty hunters. And I don't think you saw The Undertaker was this the only film The Undertaker did? I'm just scrolling through his filmography. I mean, this is probably... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is probably the only film The Undertaker did. But the budget, let's look at the budget here. Going back to the budget. Well, Going back to IMDb, let's see. It's giving me a gross, so I'm going to have to go to Wikipedia for this. Great. IMDb wasn't giving me a budget, so I'm going to have to go to Wiki. Okay. The budget for this film was $11 million, according to Wikipedia, and made $8 million in the box office. The film opened with $1.9 million. Overall, the film grossed a total of $8 million with a budget of $11. So the film was not, wasn't a success. It has 15% of Rotten Tomatoes, which I don't know if that's a current rating, but yeah, I guess Roger Ebert didn't like the film. But let's see here. I'm just sort of reading the reviews a little bit. Yeah. So it came out October 4th of 1991. So I had just turned 2 years old. My birthday's October 3rd, so that's interesting. Came out October 4th. But going back to the trivia for a second, I'll just sort of read some more trivia about the film for those who are interested. Originally titled Urban Commando, and I've heard about this before, that this film was intended for Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Danny DeVito was going to play Charlie, Christopher Lloyd's character, and Arnold was going to play Shep. When these two opted to make twins, the script was bought out by New Line Cinema as a follow-up to their highly successful Noel's Bard. And so imagine that. What Danny DeVito and Arnold could have done. I still would have been interested. I mean, it would have been interesting. But it turned out fine because, Twins is a great movie. Can't really say that about Junior, but I think it worked out fine. It would have been interesting, but and you have the PK meter from Ghostbusters appears in this film as a homing device that Shep uses, so it was cool to see that. And certain gun props in this film they borrowed from Masters of the Universe, apparently. A video game based on the film was released in 1993. In the game, you play Shep Ramsey, and you shoot your way through asteroids. I didn't know there was a video game on this. And about that sequel, Hulk Hogan said he would gladly make a sequel if it was ever asked to, because he has been asked a million times by little Hulkamaniacs all over the world if he was going to make a sequel. Hulk said that he just won't invest anything himself into the money, into it money-wise. So, yeah, Hulk Hogan ain't going to put in his money, brother. Let's see what else here. I'm just sort of scrolling through trivia. But if this hadn't been a science fiction movie, Shep Ramsey would have been a Black Ops commando who was ordered to take a vacation by his superior officer after a failed mission to eliminate a terrorist fanatic, and becomes a lodger of Charlie Wilcox and his family, and struggles to adjust to normal life due to his discipline and training, and is soon tracked down by the terrorist fanatic and his men out to settle the score. That would have been a different movie. Former WWF and WCW superstar Brutus the Barber Beefcake was used as one of the stuntmen in the film. So, yeah, interesting trivia. And, the movie does have its fun scenes. I mean, talking about the humor. When Hulk Hogan shows up, I'm here to rent the apartment. Christopher Christopher Lloyd's like, "Honey, it's for you," and just some funny lines like, after the scene where they were frozen, like the bad guys that come in to the bank and froze everybody, and Hulk Hogan takes Christopher Lloyd back home, and they have this conversation, and of course you get the famous line, "Christ, I was frozen today," and just the delivery, the way he delivers that line is funny, and of course you got the stuff with the neighbors where Shep moves, that I don't know what kind of vehicle you call that, but the neighbors get pissed, and he's like, "Do you have any idea what we're going to do to you?" And Hulk Hogan's like, "You're going to pound my face." And he's like, "What are you, nuts? This is the 90s. We're going to sue you." And it's a fun line that I still crack up at. And you got a couple of scenes where Christopher Lloyd's character tries on the suit, and he helps out this one woman, and you got some shenanigans with that. You got a couple of bits where the Shep character is messing with his mime, and so you got some shenanigans with Hulk Hogan, his character Shep throughout the film, sort of a fish out of water situation. There's a couple of bits of humor that, like, you have Christopher Lloyd's character at the stoplight. I don't know what that was about. I'm like, what is this about? But, overall with the film, I'm going on and on. Suburban Commando, again, I understand it's not perfect. I think it gets like a 4.5 on IMDb, so... But I still like the movie. It's a fun Hulk Hogan movie with a good supporting cast. Christopher Lloyd does a good job in the film. Shelley Duvall's fine. Good little just fun bits of humor with Hulk Hogan, and you can tell he's having fun with this role, and so yeah, fun little movie. So that's my review of Suburban Commando. But yeah, I'm just making sure I don't do that. But that's my review. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.